Hello everyone, welcome again. And in this demo, in this video, we are going to create a Spring Boot application to perform a CRUD operation, and where we are going to save the data into the database and going to delete the data, going to edit the data, and going to get the data from the database. And we are going to create a backend. So to access that backend, we'll use the REST APIs. So the REST API will be handled by this Postman. So we are going to send the request from here, and that request will be sent into our application, and then we'll get the response. So for the technical perspective, we are using Spring Boot, JPA repositories, and MySQL database and Postman to send the REST API. So how can we create that? The first step, very simple. You just open your Google and search here for the Spring Initializer. Search here, open the first link, Spring Initializer. What we are going to do here, we are just creating a application. So for that, I just need to pass a name. So the name of the application. For that, I'm going to create an example. CRUD YT. CRUD YT, you can say, and just make sure that keep the naming convention. So first thing here in this project, we are defining the basic architecture of the application. So select the Maven project. So we are going to create a Maven application, and the language will be Java, and we are going to use 2.7.6 because I have installed the 11th JDK version 11 in my machine. So I'm going to select the JDK 11. If you want work as on 70, you can select here from the 70 and select this option as well, Spring Boot snapshot. Okay, here we have option to add the dependencies, but I have some required dependency short, so we'll add them later. So just for example, I can just select one Spring Boot DevTool dependency and just click on this generate. So it's generating application for us. This is the CRUD YT. So here I have this application in my downloads. So keep this application at some particular folder. So I'm just keeping it here. Extract the file, and this is a zip. So what a Spring Initializer did here, Spring Initializer created a basic structure of the application for me. So I'm just going to import this in my editor. So for that I'm using Eclipse. So just clear my previous console, and what I need to do now, I'm going to import that project in my IDE. So for that, go to file, go to import, select existing Maven project, enter the path, click on finish. Automatically it will build the application and create a simple project for me. So if I run it, it will start on a particular port number that is not defined yet, but we have to define some port number in our application properties, but by default it will take the default port number of the machine. So here into application.property, we have to do some configuration, and then we'll start the process writing the code, entities and repositories. So for that, I have created one tutorial here over the code one. So you can you will find this link in the description of this video, so you can just go there and check this tutorial, and you can directly copy the data from here. So whatever the necessary data and required data, I just put the data here. So in the application.property, you need to do some configuration. That will be our database connectivity, the very first. So here I'm going to use a database. Let's say database name CRUD YT, should be YT. So I've created one database, and currently in the database I don't have that. Let's delete this CRUD, and I don't have any other database with this name, so it will be generated automatically. So CRUD YT is my database name, and this is my driver name for the MySQL, username of the database, password, and my dialect, and the context path and port number on which specific port I'm running. So I'm running it on my 9092. Okay, this is my application file. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to create some entities. What the application we need to create an entity. This is the standard format, and we have to create a repository, and repository, and another thing, we have to create controllers. Okay, Okay, that's three thing is required. So I'm going to create three package over there. So root package name will be same. So I just right click, go to new, create a package name as an entity. Okay, it will contain, it will access my all the my entities. Another package name I am going to create with the name of CTL, it will be my controller, and another package name as a repository. Okay, done. Now if you see here, we have multiple packages, but some packages are coming there, so some clones are there. So I'm just going to update my application, and automatically it will fix this issue, or you can clean up the project. Okay, it's gone now as I update the project. So in the controller I have one by default class like package info, so we can delete these classes. I just delete this class. Okay, now we have empty packages. Okay, now okay, the very first create a entity. So here we are going to use an example of a user. So I'm going to create a user entity as a user. Suppose name of this entity is a user entity. Okay, here we have to do some configuration. This entity will be my getter and setter. So I'm going to add okay, at that second step what we have to do, we have to add the dependencies, because we are going to use some annotation. So if I open my pom.xml file here, you can see here some dummy dependencies are there, but to get the result I have copied the copy of the dependency that we are using for this example, that is available here. So you can just copy them and just add them under this dependencies folder. Like this dependencies start here and ends here, so between these two tags we need to just add the dependencies. Okay, when the project is built, annotation will be automatically available over there to use under the entity section and under the entire project. So I just enter the entity as a, I just define this as an entity. Okay, and after that I'm going to use getter and setters from the long book. So if you don't know how can we install the getter setter and why we are using this direct annotation, like we don't need to create a getter setters for our attributes, so we can directly use them by using the getter and setters annotations that is coming from the Lombok. So you can search over the Google how can we install the Lombok plugin in our IDE. In my ID it's already available. If you didn't find any solution, you can comment me. I will create a scratch video from scratch to add the support for the Lombok here. Okay, so quickly let's define up like variables, or you can say the attribute. So for this entity, so private long ID. So this is the ID, and I'm going to define it as a column name. Column name. So column name should be ID. Okay, and here we are going to define a strategy. Strategy, it should be generated value, and the strategy should identify identity. It means we are added the generated value as a strategy. It means it will be a primary key, and automatically it will increase as we are going to add the record. And another thing I'm going to add let's create an example of a string and username. Okay, our user might have a name, so username. Okay, I forgot to add one thing here, just define a table name also. That's a good practice. If you didn't define that, it will automatically create by your class name. So table name should be, table name will be here as a user, let's suppose. Okay, so here this will be also my column name. So I'm going to take the column name as a username, and length of this will be 755. You can keep like 255 or whatever. So here we are defining the length of this this column, this attribute, and that's it. Like now, what is the benefit of this getter and setter annotation? I don't need to create a getter and setter here for this entity. Automatically, when I create object of this entity, it will create an getter and setter for me. Okay, so that's the first thing that's going to help me. And other thing, entity is ready now. So now let's move to the repository quickly and create one user repository. So I'm going to go here in the class and create user repository. Okay, under this repository, what we need to do, what it will be, extend one JPA repository because we are using JPA here. So JPA, can I see the option for the JPA repository? JPA repo. So it will give me some auto suggestion, but I was looking for the JPA repository that's not available here. Not this one. Okay, let me copy the exact name and that I will find here under the my repository section. If I go there, okay, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. Okay, it's not tagging the repository. Might be we have missed some dependency over there. Okay, the work is done for the entity now, and now let's create a interface for repository. So I just go here under my repository package, create interface, and the name will be user repository. Okay, here what I need to do, just extend one interface, that is JPA repository. Here I need to find the entity name. So here will be my user entity and the type of my primary key, so it will be long. Okay, it's using wrapper class, so make sure you are using long, L as a capital. That's it. Now our repository is ready. Now we have to work on the controller section. So let's create a controller class here, and this will be our class, our interface. So user controller. I just create another controller, a controller with a name, a user controller. So this will be my REST controller, and here I'm going to create an object of my repository. So auto wired, I just auto wired. What I need to do, I need to auto wire the user repository and the name as a repository. Then now we are going to create our API calls. So the first mapping will be like I need to add the data, so I'm going to use post mapping for that. So post mapping and the name of the URL, like URL I'm going to use here. So let's suppose I'm going to use add user and define a method as a public, and definitely it will return one user entity. So I'm going to use a user entity as a return type, and the method name will be add user, the same, and let it close it. Okay, now as a parameter, as an input parameter, it will take a request body because the data will come in this form, and let's suppose the name of it will be what the type of the request body, that will be user entity again. So I just save it as a entity. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to save this entity into our database, into our repository. So this repository dot save, and we'll pass the entity here, or we can say, yeah, we need to pass it here, and that's it. Now that will return one user entity, one type of user entity. So we can directly pass a return type here. So it will return a user entity. Okay, so whenever we'll call this, it will automatically save the data and enter it into our database. So let's run the application and check like everything is good safe now, and let's check what's going on here. So this is my runner application, so runner class. So I just going to right click on it, go to run it as a Java application, and it's running. Oh, there is some error. So I found one error. Okay, here in the entity we have missed one annotation, that is ID. So we need to identify it as a ID. So I just add annotation as an ID here, and that's it. I think it should be resolved now. I just right click again, go to application, Java application, going to run it again, and this time I hope it's running on port number 9092. It's good. Now let's send a request and check everything is working fine or not. So we are ready to go to add user. So I just go to the Postman and create a new fresh request. Okay, I just create a new request here. The request type is post, and the local host it's running on 9090, and API slash add user. So how we create this URL here, localhost. The application is running on a localhost. This is my port number, and API is my application context that is available here. In the, you can change it from here, the application property, and after that the name of the this URL, the API. And after that we need to add some data here. So I'm going to select our JSON format. So for that, go to body, select JSON, and I'm going to select here. So we have only one property, like two property, ID and username. ID is auto generated, so I just need to enter the username. So I'm going to just enter the username, and username, let's suppose I'm going to enter P, and let's see. First compare the username, like it should be same as your entity. So it's user capital N. Yeah, it's capital N, that's correct. So let's send the request and check for the response. It says server is not started. It means it's running on 9092 and we are calling 9091. So I just change my server, my port number, and you can see the data is returning. It means the data is added into the database. I just refresh my database and you can see the new database here, auto generated, and in the user table we have one record. Let's add some more record. Let's say this time V is also added, so two records are there. Okay, so we have successfully added the data into our database. Now the next thing we need to create, we need to edit and delete, and next thing will be our get the data. So currently let's create an API to get the data. So I'm going to create a get mapping that will get the data. So let's suppose I'm going to create users. This will be my API call, and I'm going to copy this same methods to save the time, and here this time it will return a list. So I just change the return type as a list, and what type of list will be, it will be user type. And to get the list I don't need any request parameter, so I just remove it, and the name should be method name should be user list, and this time it will return repository.find, call repository.find all. That's it. I think that's it. Application is automatically refreshed. Now let's make the another request from here. So I just copy this URL, create a new request, and this time it will be get request, and when I send the data, and Okay, this we have to change the API and URL as well. So I just change this as a user, and now you can see two records are there into the database. And if I add more record, let's suppose I add another record, and when I send this request, it will edit another data here. Okay, so we are successfully added the data, we are successfully get the data. Now we need to edit the data. Okay, to edit the data, the request will become into the form of put. So let's copy the same method and make some changes here. So I just update the pep mapping as in put mapping, and let's make it as an update user, not users, and the name will be, the method name will be update, the method name as an update. Okay, now what I need to do, it will return it will return that user that is recently updated. So we have just changed the return type, and here call the JPA method as a flush save and plus. Here we need to pass the entity. So again we'll call request body here. So that is coming. What is the exactly request body? So this is the request body, the data that we are sending from here. This data will become under the request body. So we have to receive it as a request body, and what kind of data is that? It's type of user entity, and we can say it as an entity. And again copy the data and pass it here. Now it's ready. So just create another request to update the data. I just create a put request here, and okay, update user, we need to pass the end URL, and this time we are accessing the request body as well. So we need to pass some request body. So I go to body, go to raw, and data will be sent into the JSON format. So I select the data as a format as a JSON, and I'm just going to copy the same format here. And this time let's suppose I want to edit our data which have a ID as a 1. Okay, so 1, and I'm going to give as a name as a Rama. Okay, so currently the name is Whoopi, and let's see what happened now. When I send the request, it says that the username is updated for the ID 1. If I refresh the database, you can see the ID is, the name is updated. Let's suppose I want to update the user 3 with name, and I send the request, it's updated, and here also it's updated. Okay, so it's all about the put operations or update operation. Now we have last remaining operation here as a delete. So what I can do to delete, I'm going to copy the same and going to make some changes. So the first thing we are going to do, change the endpoints and edit user, and here I'm going to pass it as a delete request, delete mapping this time, and change the name as a delete. You can keep the any name here as a method name, and this time we are going to receiving a body. This time we will receive a ID. So ID of the user that we want to delete. So request that will come in the form of request button. Okay, and it will be type of long, and name will be ID. So, and this time it will not return nothing, so just keep it as a string, and we are going to remove this return, and if everything goes fine, it will return the user is deleted. Okay, the simple message. So what we need to do here, we have a repository object already. So repository dot delete by ID, and we are going to pass that ID here. That's it. So now let's create another request and delete the user. So I'm just copying this URL, creating a new request, and this time the request will be delete, and I'm just going to copy this end URL, and here you can see delete. And but this time I need to pass a ID as well. So we are calling, we are getting a request param here. So I just create at the rate ID equals to 3. Let's suppose I want to delete the record number 3 here. So I just send request and got a response as a user is deleted. And if I refresh this table, this time the 2 records are remain. Now even if I call this get the request, it will display only 2 records. So it's all about the deleting, like adding the data, delete the data, get the data, and update the data. So this is a simple example, and if you need if you want to apply this application into your system, you will get the link in the description box. You will find the complete source code over there. You can copy it. In case you face any issue, just comment down. And if any technical topic is there in this tutorial that is not understandable for you, like you don't know about the Lombok and JPA or some technical terms, you can comment us. We'll try to create a new video from scratch for that. Hopefully you will like this video, and it will be helpful for you for the learning purpose. And if you like it, please subscribe the channel so you will be get notifications for the new upcoming videos. Thank you.